So, welcome everybody to the very first webinar of the Why Social Enterprise Summit. My name is Kat Lecock. I'm the founder of Share Impact and super excited to be starting the summit today with a very special guest, Rianne. So welcome, Rianne.
Hi everybody.
It's fantastic to have you here, and I'm so pleased that we get to do this, launching the summit over the next 2 weeks together. I'm really pleased that you get to join us. I'm going to do a little bit of a general introduction to the summit first, some of the technical things for anybody that's new to webinars, new to me, new to the summit generally, because whether you're watching live with us this morning or whether you're watching the replay, I think some of this will be helpful, useful, interesting background. And then we'll go straight into, because I know what you're really here is to listen to Rianne and we talk about why social enterprise is so important, what it is, and also Rianne's 4S model for social enterprise, which I'm really excited that we're able to share with you as part of the summit. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm an impact strategist and business coach. I have been a social entrepreneur since 2013 when me and my best friends set up Solutions for the Planet, which is an education programme here in the UK, working with corporates, but most fundamentally working with 11 to 14-year-olds to design sustainable business solutions to the world's sustainability challenges. And we're super excited to have seen that grow over the last 5 years, and Jen is doing a fantastic job now as CEO, and I'm on the board supporting that with some other fantastic people. So do check out Solutions for the Planet if you want to find out a little bit more about how I started as a social entrepreneur. But now I run Share Impact because I'm super passionate about helping more social enterprises develop, thrive, and actually grow and improve the sector, so that we're challenging, I suppose, the status quo in the market currently. The growth in social entrepreneurship has been phenomenal over the last 10 years, but I want to see it more, and I know Rianne does this and supports this as well. We want to see it much more across the world and having much greater impact. Where I felt I could support this is helping people to measure and communicate their impact better. So that's what I do in my day-to-day job. But I was super passionate about actually helping more people access some of the great speakers and experts that I've had the opportunity to meet or hear at various summits and conferences. And the easiest way for me to do that so that everybody can get access to it for free is to run a summit, an online summit, and promote that through the networks I have and through the amazing speakers that we've got on the summit over the next 2 weeks. So somehow you have come across it, and it's been fantastic to see so many of you sign up, so thank you for joining us. I really hope that you get what you want out of this summit. It's got a really diverse range of speakers and topics, and what I will be asking at the very end of the summit is if there's anything that you think we've missed, which I'm sure we will because there's so much we could be talking about. I would love to hear any key questions or topics or things that you think we should have included in the summit, which we can maybe look for next year if we do this whole thing again, which I would love the opportunity to do. So welcome to those of you. I can see some more people are joining as I've been introducing the summit. If you've never been on a webinar before, just to let you know, there is a chat box. You might have to scroll to the bottom of the screen to see and to kind of open up the chat box. But we'd really encourage you to at least come and introduce yourself, tell us where you're calling in from, you know, what you do, if you're interested in doing that, just so we can see and we can start that conversation. It might be, you might find other people interesting to connect to. I'd obviously ask everybody, and I don't think we need to say this, but please just be mindful that this is an international group of attendees calling in from all over the world, hopefully. So please be mindful of what you're sharing and posting, and please let's keep it positive and friendly. If you have got questions for Rianne, then please post those throughout the conversation in the chat box, and we will try, if we've got time, to answer those questions at the end of the webinar. And if we don't get time, we'll do our best to share those in an email afterwards with people as well. So I think that's all. Just to, if you haven't gone on a webinar as well, just be reassured that we can't see or hear you. We can only see what you type in the chat box. So please don't worry about anything of that nature. And also, if you do like what you hear today and would like to share the summit and encourage friends, family, colleagues to join in as well, then I'd really encourage and request that you do that. Would be fantastic. So Rianne, let's get straight into it. Thank you so much for joining us on today's summit. It's fantastic to have you here. Rianne is the co-founder of Impact Business Space, But Rianne, I know you've had a long career before setting up that and doing what you're doing now as an impact entrepreneur. So please, can you just give us a little bit of an introduction to who you are and how your journey has come to this point, really, as a co-founder and social entrepreneur?
Yes. Well, first of all, Kat, thank you for having me. Obviously, I think it's pretty a rock star that you put this summit together in a very short time. And the lineup is amazing. So kudos for you in doing this and spreading the word about social enterprise, because we both firmly agree that that's necessary still. We still need to educate the world. So, and this is just a way and a great way. So thank you for doing this. And obviously, thank you for having me on.
No, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, everybody. My name is Rianne. I am currently from the Netherlands. But I live in Asia at the moment, and I say at the moment because I think right now people I would say I'm a digital nomad, so to speak. So I have created this lifestyle where I get to travel a lot, work from anywhere in the world, across all different time zones, and basically integrate social impact into my day-to-day life. I have 20 years background in the commercial industry, or as I now say it, in the just-for-profit. It's not like, it's the opposite for the not-for-profit. I worked in the just-for-profit. And I like to say it left me with a full bank account, but an empty soul. I used to serve corporate clients. I've had my own business for the last decade, serving corporate clients around marketing and sales challenges, mostly customer centricity, very corporate jargon. But my corporate clients were in it for the money. And they can create all these beautiful statements, but in the end, it was just for the money. And I got tired and uninspired. And about 2 years ago, I started my journey into figuring out what was next for me in life. And that journey literally took me to Australia first, and then I arrived in Bali, Indonesia. And in Bali, I discovered two things. Number one was social entrepreneurship up until that day. And that's like right now, it was March last year. So it's not that long ago. I never knew what that was. I never heard of the words. Like Kat here is a veteran. I had no clue. And I discovered digital nomadism. And I was mesmerized by both, I would say. But social entrepreneurship, to me, it was as if just a light bulb moment. It was like, oh my gosh, there are actually entrepreneurs out there, courageous entrepreneurs who start a business. But that's the money, making the money part is just a means to an end. You know, and the end is to do good in the world, to uplift humanity and our planet, to be like their business literally is a force for good. And I'm still blown away, because from that moment when I discovered this was March last year, I started to read and study everything that I could find about it. And with every company that I investigated or I studied, I became more enthusiastic. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So why don't we have more of these? You know, and why aren't there like a gazillion Tom shoes already, or Listen headphones or whatever? Why is not everybody buying from these type of companies? And then I realized, okay, it's just very new still. It's very grassroots. It's still very young. And even though the people who've been in it for a while tell me that there's been this explosion already, it's still, fairly young. We were having a conversation about this the other day, that how it's just still early adopters, early movements. So, but anyway, I decided 2 years or a year and a half ago, okay, I'm going to change my life around. I'm basically going to fly back to the Netherlands, quit my business or exit my company, my existing company. And I'm going to start something new that I would figure out a way how to leverage my skills and talents and passions to help social impact entrepreneurs become very successful. And then specifically in finding ways to make money, weaving social impact into your business, so to speak. Because I met a lot of social entrepreneurs on my journey who are passionate about the impact, but they don't necessarily know how to make money. And well, that's where I came from. I figured that game out a long time ago. So I understand how to make money. And now I'm just helping social entrepreneurs figure it out with them and for them. And that's exciting. So that's how I got started.
That is a brilliant introduction. And for those of you that are watching and maybe have never met Rianne before, and for those of you that are watching and thinking, oh, it's interesting, like me and Rianne, she says I'm a veteran, but actually we're relatively new in the social enterprise space. Like I've only been working in the social enterprise space for 5 years. Rianne's in the last year and a half. The reason why I've invited Rianne on to start the summit, and I'm sure you'll have seen this already, is because of her energy. And I really see her as a powerhouse for change, because she's really, you know, in a year she's achieved so much with her business, but also she represents, and the reason why, one of the main reasons I brought Rianne on, is she represents this whole community of digital nomads, social entrepreneurs who are either running their businesses online or seeking support online, operating from all parts of the world. And for many, certainly because I came much more, I don't know, in the UK here, kind of through various incubation and accelerator programs, which were fantastic and are brilliant, and we have a great ecosystem in the UK. But what's been really fascinating for me over the last 2 years, setting up Share Impact and running Share Impact, has been this huge community online of impact entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, people trying to do good in the world in all sorts of different ways, that maybe aren't in the formal structures of the ecosystem that exist. And so I really wanted to start this summit because this is where me and Rianne operate most often. I mean, we just certainly operate in the real world, it's not just online, but we're certainly kind of in this online space of social entrepreneurs living all over the world, doing amazing things both online and in their local communities. And so that's one of the main reasons, Rianne, because I wanted to bring this different perspective at the very start of the summit, of what's going on online outside maybe some of those more formal structures that are going on. So yeah, brilliant introduction, and it's great to have your expertise and experience as well from the from the commercial side previously.
Yeah.
So Rianne, I know that you have developed this really helpful model, because there's a lot of debate globally about what is and isn't social enterprise.
Yeah.
And I know for you, you actually use, I hope I've got this right, but more like the social impact entrepreneur phrase. Is that right? Yeah,
and true. Like there's the world yet has to agree on a single definition of social enterprise, and I think the world will never agree. Mm-hmm. But and that's fine. You know, it's all these different people will resonate with different definitions. It's fine. But yeah, for me, when I joined this space, I am very clear about, and I don't use social enterprise anymore, because especially in the United Kingdom and in Scotland, where basically this whole thing is born, or it's deeply rooted. It's still heavily government funded, or it's still nonprofits moving into revenue generating activities. So it's still a lot of it's grant based. And I have no judgment about this. This is fine. This is perfect, but it's just not what I know. You know, I know how to make money, and I'm unapologetic about it. So when I came into this space, I said, okay, for me, I define a social impact business, social enterprise, social impact business as a for-profit business where the social mission and the business mission run in tandem. Mm-hmm. Where they are completely woven together. And later down in this opening, I will share a little bit more what I think the key identifiers are of a social impact business. But yeah, where they're really, you cannot just cut the impact side out. That's why I usually say, like, because there are lots of for-profit companies who donate to causes, right? Like, but to me, they're not social impact businesses because they can easily swap a cause. Mm-hmm. Like Walmart is a massive multi-million-dollar company in the United States. They give billions or millions of dollars away. But to me, they're not a social enterprise or social impact business because, well, first of all, there's a whole lot that they're not doing very nicely for their workers or for any other. It's like they're not leading with that much integrity. But also because their customers don't even know what causes they give to, and it's easy for them to swap. This year we give the tons to Ellen to give away, and that year we do it to something else. And to me, social impact business, they're tied together, that social mission and that business mission. So that's a very important thing. But yes, I consider them a business. Mm-hmm. For me, it's important that they treat their customers just as, you know, really well, that they serve their customers, not just their community of service, as we call them, not just the beneficiaries. Mm-hmm. Because I believe an entrepreneur who only cares about the beneficiaries, it won't sustain. It just won't sustain over a long time, because you need to figure out how to fund whatever it is that you're working towards, whatever impact that you want to make. So yeah, a for-profit business where the social mission and the business mission run in tandem. That's how
which I 100% agree with, and which is why we get on so well, because it's definitely the thing that I have been, challenging in a very soft way, but kind of encouraging and exploring ways. And I'm like you, I'm much more interested in how to create for-profit social enterprises or impact businesses that are able to create that social environmental impact, but actually are successful businesses, because I don't see that the sector can grow and sustain unless they are in that way for functioning as profitable businesses and have that entrepreneurial mindset, and like you said, focus on the customers needs, what they want, as much as the impact that you're trying to create as well. So I really welcome you and thank you for sharing that explanation, because you do it so well. I just wondered if, before we go into because you've got some brilliant slides to share us to help bring this 4S model to life, but I was just wondering, because you are a digital nomad, and we've got some comments here from Eddie, I think, who's also said digital nomad. I can't read all the comments and talk at the same time, so I will come back to them when Rianne's doing her presentation. But why did you choose to be a digital nomad, and what, from the other sort of digital nomads that are working in the social enterprise space, what have you kind of learned that's slightly different, I suppose? And I don't know, are there more opportunities? Are there more challenges? Is it different, or is it just a different way of living?
I think it's just a different way of living. What it has opened my eyes, definitely, because I for the past year and a half I've been living in Asia, in Bali, right now in Chiang Mai, and I just came back from Cambodia. And what's really opened my eyes is that the social enterprise movement in those countries is much bigger than in Western countries, but it's just not talked about as much. But even like last week in Cambodia, pretty much every restaurant I was in was a social enterprise, and they also use those words. And I guess it makes sense, right? Because that's what Tom said, our sort of like a colleague in our industry. He said, yeah, okay, because obviously the issues there are bigger underground, so it's easier for them. Yeah, but it really opened my eyes. Then in general, the digital nomad community, I feel, but I'm probably very biased, I feel are more conscious in general, because I'm currently sitting in a co-working space, and it's trying to be as waste-free as possible. Obviously, when you're traveling in these countries, plastic is a massive problem. Plastic water, you cannot drink the tap water here, so you need to have water from water bottles. But then being mindful, okay, how do you get that? So it's everybody's so aware, and it changed me. For the past year and a half, I've become much more aware of my own footprint on this earth, how I deal with waste, how I deal with water straws. I live in it's hot here. So when you go out and you get a drink, there's straws everywhere. So you learn how to ask not to give a straw and buy a straw. But when I was still living in the Netherlands during summer, it wouldn't even cross my mind, if I went to the beach and got a drink and to not have a straw. So so that's basically the awareness as a consumer more than as a business. But most digital nomads, frankly, are just freelancers, web developers, graphic designers, whatever, just because they love the lifestyle and they want to work. They're not per se social entrepreneurs. Whenever I meet new people and I share them what there is, I was like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. Oh my gosh, that's so good. That's the response I usually get when I say I have this membership community. Social entrepreneurs, yeah. Anyway.
Fantastic. Well, Rianne, let's get into the slides,
okay.
And then we'll have some more conversation after the slides. Now,
I can share them, I think.
Upload them, but if you need help, let me know.
Yeah, I'm going to try this. Bear with me.
Excuse me, I'm just going to drink.
But I think this is going to work. How do I... Hang on, I have to move this to make it into presentation mode. Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
Because I cannot see the chat anymore.
No, we can see that. That's brilliant.
Hang on, I have to get this Zoom thing out of the way. Okay, so I prepared a few slides for this presentation, just because Kat invited me on this to have my perspective on social impact businesses, but also because through my research on the past year and a half on research about other social impact businesses, I discovered there are 4 overarching ways to weave in a social mission into your business. And for me, when I discovered that wasn't mind-blowing, because I didn't know, I knew everybody already knew that. But when I started to share that with other people like Kat and other mentors and what I still call veterans, I was like, okay, this is apparently something special. So this is what I want to share with you. Now, how do I move forward? Yeah. this is what we've done. Who am I? Here again, my definition: a social impact business is a business where a social mission and a business mission run in tandem. So you cannot have one without the other. Now, to me, when I started to study social entrepreneurship, I study that by studying businesses and by studying their models, their business model. A business model is basically how a company creates and delivers value. And when I understand how a company serves their customers, like what do they sell, how do they get money, and what do they spend the money on, then I understand the business. And now when I started my journey into social entrepreneurship, I just started to study not only from a revenue generating side, but also from an impact creation side. So how do they do that? How do they do that? And what I discovered that overall, there are basically 4 identifiers of a social impact business. First of all, and this is thank you to Simon Sinek, they have an overarching why. In French, it's a raison d'être. It's literally a reason for being. And a reason for being that's bigger than themselves. Now, and Simon Sinek introduced this, I think it was 10 years ago or so, but that was for the for-profit companies, or just for profit companies, but social impact businesses have this naturally, because the whole reason why they start a business is because they're usually very pissed off about something. They're usually they see some sort of injustice in the world, whether it's environmental or social, and they think, no, we need to do better, we need to change. So their whys are usually all these big, bold statements. You know, they want to make change and massive impact in the world. And that is also what keeps them going, especially in the early days when things are tough. It keeps them going. When Tom's Shoes, that's to me still the poster child of social entrepreneurship. Tom's Shoes, the shoe company, when he discovered that those kids didn't have shoes to go to school, he said, okay, I'm going to make this right for them. I'm going to give them shoes so they can go to school and get an education. And then he went with his bag of shoes and they went to the United States and sold that for his bag and then was able to give shoes back. So it's a reason for being that's bigger than themselves. That's the first key identifier. Now, the second one is that obviously they have a community of customers. They sell something to somebody. And that's like any ordinary business, right? That's no different. A business is only a business if you sell something, or if somebody buys something, not if you sell something, if actually people buy something. So that's the commercial side of things. They have a community of customers, it's people that they sell their products and services to. But then they also have what we now call, and with we, I mean my business partner, Joshua Shupman. He and him founded Impact Business Space. But most social entrepreneurs also have a community of service. And a community of service, other words for it are beneficiaries, your social cause, basically. And that is basically the people who you are here to serve with your, like making impact. Who do you want to uplift the most? Who do you want to help the most? Now, there is a thing that, and I'll get to that later, because sometimes they're the same. But the fourth thing, what is they have what I call a business model where impact is woven into their business. And I will go into detail in the 4 overarching ways that I have seen companies do that. So 99% of all social impact businesses use one or more of these 4 models. But last thing about these community of customers and the community of services, like I said, sometimes they are the same. And I will get into some real life examples in a bit where I'll demonstrate that. But these are my 4 identifiers of a social impact business. So in big overarching, big, bold why, community of customers, people that they sell it to, community of services, people they want to see uplifted, and a business model where it's completely woven in. Now, what's an impact business model? Just short, I just before explained a business model is basically just a description of how your business creates, delivers, and captures value. And then an impact business model, it's just the impact is completely integrated in it. So it's just a description how your business creates, delivers, and captures value and impact. And I don't know, people who are watching, a great tool if you want to get started on this, on figuring out your own impact business model, a great tool is what is called the business model canvas. Yeah. And actually, for our members inside Impact Business Maze, I completely revamped that thing. So it's an impact business model, because the original one obviously does not take into account impact at all. It's just a commercial model. But it is a good way to start with, okay, how does How do the little pieces of my business, how do they work together? So what I discovered is that during my research of studying hundreds and hundreds of social impact business, I literally went to the B Corp database and just one by one started to study. And I went to this website called causeartist.com. It's a great resource, tons of inspiring examples of social entrepreneurs. And I just started to dig through their websites and annual reports or whatever to understand them. And what I discovered is there are basically 4 different impact business models. And I call them 4S because convenient for me, they all start with, with an S. So it's selling, sourcing, staffing, and sharing. And basically it's, and I'll go into detail in each one, it's a description of how your community of customers and your community of services, how they sort of like are working together inside your business. Now, the first one is what I call selling. And how I mentioned in the previous slides that every social impact business has a community of customers and a community of service. With this model, they are the same. So when your community of service is actually also the people who you sell your products and services to. And a lot of people are like, huh, how does that work? Well, actually, one of the most well-known examples does this. This is Muhammad Yunus, for the people who don't recognize him. Muhammad Yunus, which to me is sort of like the founding father of social businesses. He calls it social businesses, by the way. But and he founded the Grameen Bank. Now, Muhammad is, right now, he's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He's from Bangladesh originally. And he saw his country being one of the poorest countries on earth. And he knew, I think he has an economic background, he knew if we can only raise the way to raise a whole country out of poverty is to create a middle class. And a middle class is created through entrepreneurship. So he needed to figure out a way how to stimulate entrepreneurship in his own country. And he did that eventually by saying, I'm going to provide women only, with microloans. And he was the founder of the microlending system, or the whole philosophy. And he gave those women $5 to $10 to start their own business, whether it was selling grocery or selling fruits and vegetables, making arts and crafts, anything. And only women, because through his experience, he saw, hey, women are, they take responsibility and they will pay me back. They don't go out and drink their money away or whatever. And they will make this work because they care for their families. They want to see their families uplifted. And that's a good starting point. So these women started with $5 to $10, built their businesses, eventually hired people and raised the whole of Bangladesh. But eventually his community of customers and community of services are kind of the same. You could say his community of service is the whole of Bangladesh and the community of customers are these women, but essentially they're from the same tribe, so to speak. So that is my first model, where your community and customers and your community of service are the same. Then you use what I call the selling model. Now, the second model that I've noticed is what I call the sourcing model. That is basically where you buy from your community of service and you sell to your community of customers. So you can either buy ingredients, parts, so to speak, and then you have a whole manufacturing process going on somewhere, and then you create a product and then you sell that to your community of customers. Or you buy complete products, like ethical marketplaces. This is what they do. They buy from tribal communities or whatever, and they just resell. They just provide a marketplace to them. But another great example for me is, these are my good friends from Bali. I met them in Bali. They're Jake and Corey Orak from Ethnotech Bags. And you see these bags here. They have a passion for making sure that the cultural tradition of weaving is maintained in 5 different countries around the world on I think it's 4 different continents. So they source these beautiful woven fabrics and patterns. They source those directly from these communities, like in the middle of nowhere. And then they create the most beautiful travel bags from them and laptop bags from them. And they sell those to people just like you and I all over the world via e-commerce. So they buy from the people they want to see uplift the most, because they saw those cultural traditions of weaving. It was dying because everybody was buying cheap fabrics from China. It was dying, and they said, no, we want to make sure that those cultural heritage, the fabric, but also the patterns, they're very, very tribal. and that they are maintained and they're kept alive. So we're going to buy directly from them. No middleman, just buy directly and then create something else. So my second model is sourcing, where you buy from your community of service and you sell to your community of customers, which is an entirely different group. Then the third model that I discovered is what I call the staffing model. That is where basically business owners provide employment to their community of service, and they have a role in the company to help create and deliver value to their community of customers. So they employ the people that they want to see uplifted the most. And one of the companies that I absolutely adore is the Giving Keys in Los Angeles. It's a company, it started, I don't know when it's founded, I think 5-6 years ago or something. But the owners, they were really passionate and concerned with people who transition back from homelessness. Because in the United States, you know, the social system is not the best in the world. I'm Dutch, so our social system is quite nice. So in the United States, it's not that nice. And they wanted to give these people an opportunity. So they said, okay, we're going to build a company that is going to provide employment to people who transition back from homelessness, giving them a whole new outlook in life, building back their confidence, just giving them an opportunity again. But we have a jewelry company, and our product actually is just these keys that you can have imprinted with words. So they are spreading a good message through their jewelry. But in that process, the people who are actually making those keys are people who previously were homeless. I got to visit them in June, and it's amazing. It's a whole warehouse where 30-40 people all, you know, you could chat with them, and they're so intensely grateful, obviously, for the Giving Keys and the owners that they got this opportunity. So that's my third model. It's the staffing model, where you provide employment, you staff your community of service, and they help create a product that you eventually sell to your community of customers. And then the last model, the last model is sharing, and that's the most widely and commonly used model. It's basically where you have a regular business, so to speak. You just have a product, you create that via your own systems, or you have a service, and you sell that to whatever audience, your community of customers. But then parts of your proceeds, your profits, you share with your community of service. And you can share that either through money, like you donate money to an impact partner, or can be nonprofit, NGO, whatever, or you share in products. And obviously that is Tom's Shoes. Tom's Shoes use the sharing model, and they have this, what we call now the one-for-one model, where for every pair of Toms they sell, a kid in need also gets a pair to go to school. So that is what we call the sharing model. But other examples are where they donate money to nonprofit partners. Another great example is Listen headphones. They make the most beautiful acoustic wooden headphones, and they want to give back hearing to people. So they work with an impact partner, a nonprofit partner that literally helps deaf people or people who cannot hear that well to get implants. So they donate money ultimately to that impact partner, and they take care of their community of service. So that is my last model, where you share part of your proceeds with your community of service, and you sell to, you just create a product for a community of customers. So, and here is the recap of those 4 different models. So it's selling, sourcing, staffing, or sharing. Now with these 4, I believe I've seen it, like 99% of all social impact businesses use one or more of these 4. Now, obviously, there may very well be, but mine is totally different. I've seen a totally different, but there's always an exception to the rule, but the majority of companies fit in one of these. Now, what we strongly suggest is when you start out, choose one model. Because I have gotten to know now social entrepreneurs that are very big-hearted. We have big hearts, and we want to do it all. And I said, that's great. Put it in your vision board, keep it as an ambition, keep it very alive, but start simple with one. Because building a business is tough as nails as it is already, and then weaving an impact, it's just an extra tiny challenge. So don't make yourself complicated by doing all of it. Like there's this, a while back, I followed this Kickstarter company. I forgot the name, but it's a UK-based company. It's a foods company, and she employs people with autism. She sources from only very, you know, some sort of, like, she had the second community of service, but it was very complex. Her business was complex. She had 3 different models all woven in. And then chances are you get lost by trying to do it all. So our suggestion is strongly figure out, when you start this journey, start by describing your community of service, because people usually tend to know that the best. Then your community of customers, and then figure out, okay, where am I going to start first? I think that's it. Oh, yeah. So that's so far, right, my model. Now, obviously, this is what we teach at Impact Business Base. So if you want to learn more, please scroll there. But let's focus on this. And if there's any questions, I'd love to hear them.
Oh, thank you, Rianne. That's so useful, so helpful, and I'm sure lots of people will find that. I know the first time you shared this with me, it was like, oh wow, that just makes everything a lot simpler. I would encourage anybody that's got any questions to start posting those in the chat now, so we'll probably just have enough time to come to those towards the end. But Rianne, I really wanted to ask about the sort of the environmental side. So we often in social entrepreneurship talk a lot about the social impact, which, you know, is really, really important and necessary. And I think certainly this summit will focus a little bit more on the social impact of things because of the speakers that we've got and the themes, etc. But I'm interested in terms of your model. How does the environmental impact kind of fit into that? And I can see in lots of ways sort of the obvious. So sourcing, for example, in terms of, I can see definitely that businesses that kind of focus on sourcing more of environmentally produced ingredients, parts or products, or thinking through their sourcing that has less environmental impact in that kind of production process, and you know, across the board. But I'm just interested in, because it wasn't, I suppose, as obvious, where do you see it, and can it fit in all sort of each of the models?
Yeah, what's sometimes a bit harder for like with our definitions for people who deeply care about the environmental stuff is how to define their community of service, because it's the planet, you know. But which I agree with, you know, like the companies that strive for cleaner oceans, they're obviously, you know, they do that for all of us. So I would say the community of service then probably is the wider audience. You know, like the bigger public, because still I believe the reason why we want cleaner oceans is because we want to have a planet that is here healthy for future generations, you know, for future either people or animals. Because obviously when I talk about community of service, I usually talk about people, but some care deeply about animal welfare. So even for example, you have that company, and now I forget the name, maybe you can help me, that ocean cleanup, and then they sell these bracelets to raise the funds. They're like massive. So to me, they are just have a sharing model, because they raise money from a community, or a selling model, you can either look at it way, but they raise money by selling a product, and then they use that money to fund their social impact. Yeah, I cannot, on the top of my head, I cannot come up with other environmental examples, but I think mostly they fit in here, but it's just a definition of what is your community of service. Yeah, and I always,
no, really, really helpful. And I think because it's often as well, and this has been brought up a number of times, and something that I'm just really focused on and passionate about is that, you know, absolutely take, in terms of the business model, one of these things to keep the business model relatively simple. But recognizing that, you know, through your business, you can consider very small environmental changes or changes in the business and the way you operate to reduce the environmental impact. You know, and I think that just comes, like you said, as a digital nomad through time, as your consciousness of increases, or your awareness of particular issues, or where your business is based and the potential impact it can have through its supply chain, production, etc. You can often make really easy wins in terms of that environmental impact as well.
Yeah. So. It was one example I wanted to give for how you can start small, because in September I was home for a little bit, like in the Netherlands, and I met up with this man who's also a mentor in this space, and he just recently worked with a startup or a new business that was in the construction industry. And this business basically wanted to use a staffing model. So they wanted to staff construction workers like painters or plumbers or whatever that were not the fastest, you know, they were not the best plumbers or painters in the industry, but they, you know, they just had what we call a distance to like the how do you say it? The employment market, you know, they had a mental setback or whatever, but he wanted to do this anyway. And he eventually decided, but when he would like apply for contracts, he would always lose because, you know, the people who give those contracts say, I want to have it done within like for whatever fast. And what he ended up doing, and I thought it was brilliantly smart, he said instead of going after the contracts, he went at he saw his community of customers as the people who went after those contracts and just approached them and saying, okay, I understand that you have to do this fast, but what if you are building this whole block of homes and we just do one house in that whole block, but we do it with people, and then you get to share in your branding and your message that you're also weaving an impact. So he was targeting exactly what you just said, part of this whole supply chain by not going after the end buyer, but going after sort of like the contractor in the middle. And he did wonderful. He was really successful because most contractors also want to do good, but they don't know how because they only see these big demands of the industry that they can't fulfill. So that was, so he used the staffing model and he sold, and eventually the contractor could also say, hey, you know, I'm working together with this social impact business and therefore looking better. That's sort of like, so I was amazed by that example.
And do you see that more like through your research and the people that you're connecting with, do you see that more in terms of social enterprises working more with, you know, the traditional businesses, with corporates to kind of build into their supply chains and provide? And
that's so good because like I want my personal why, if you talk about bold statements, I want to see a world where all businesses are a force for good. Like every single business on earth. Obviously that's big and bold, you know, and the amount of startups right now compared to mature businesses and social enterprises is just ridiculously, it's like there are not enough mature businesses, but this is a way for us to speed it up. Because if you start as a social impact entrepreneur and you work with a corporate, you catch, what's the saying, 2 birds and 1 stone.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't understand why you want to kill that skill. Why do you want to, anybody would want to kill 2 birds, but anyway, that's beside the point. You know, so because you not only do good with your own company, but you make another corporate or just for profit aware of what he can do as well. So I think that's amazing, and it'll be a great way for us to make bigger impact together.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And actually that's a good segue for me to just drop in some notes about what's coming up this week. So for those people that are particularly interested in supply chains in corporate or traditional business, then we've actually got a couple of people from Social Enterprise UK talking about their By Social Corporate Challenge, and which is exactly that, and kind of sharing some examples. So that will be on Thursday. We've only just confirmed them, which is why it's not in all the materials. But also if you're interested in exploring, which is actually links really well to what Rianne said in terms of other examples of social enterprises that fit within that model. So tomorrow we've got Cress Wesling from Elvis and Cress, who are a fantastic luxury brand, who actually produce bags and accessories and purses, all sorts of things from basically from hose pipes from the London Fire Brigade. So they only have like everything has a lifespan, but actually they repurpose that and other materials as well to create their beautiful luxury products. So we've got Crest talking all about that, and so I suppose that one falls into the sourcing side, but also they actually then give back a lot of their, I think it's 50% of their profits back into sort of the Fire Brigade's charity and other relevant charities. So that's tomorrow, and we also have Philip Ullman this week, I think, who is from the Cordon Group, who, like you were talking about then, Rianne, is essentially a recruitment agency. I mean, it's a very big recruitment agency here in the UK, and it's a family-run business that a couple of years ago, Philip, as chief exec, decided to turn into a social enterprise, which I think is a really interesting new model or new way that I think that's potentially going to happen more and more as more business leaders become interested and aware of social entrepreneurship and seeing how they can do that. So we'll be talking to Philip about how he's actually done that, and now why he's advocating that more businesses from like a traditional background of just for profit explore whether a social enterprise model and bringing in impact into their business core can actually, how it can transform and create opportunities for their business long term as well. So just in terms of building on some of the amazing things that Rianne's been talking about this morning, there's some other great speakers coming up throughout the week that we can hear more on those topics as well. So Rianne, let me see, I don't think, has anybody posted any questions yet? What I will be doing, because I've made a lot of notes of all the different things you mentioned in your slides, and we'll be putting that maybe into a little resource or just some notes in the email, follow-up email for people, because there was some references like to the business model canvas, to Simon Sinek's book, and to B Corp and Mohammed Yunus, and Mohammed Yunus has written lots of books, so if people haven't read those books, they definitely need to go on your Christmas book list. And I think probably just the examples that you gave would be useful for people to follow up on. So we'll put all of that information just in a very simple...
I can, and you have my slides, right? So you can give those.
You can share those as well.
Yeah.
So let me just see. I've got one
I have a question.
So,
Rianne, from your client base, are you seeing trends in where customers need support the most from business planning funding? What we see the most, but obviously also because that's what we are specifically messaging, is most of our customers, our members, come in with not a clear, not a lot of clarity around how they're going to make money. So their revenue model. So they're very clear on the impact usually, because that's their passion. That's what they got them started. That's what they got them fired up. But how are they going to turn this into a business? How can they make money from it? How can they monetize? That's usually questions that people come in with. And then we break that down very easy. We break that down because like I believe any business, even a social impact business, starts with getting crystal clear on who you're serving as a customer. So breaking down, and when people think, yeah, but I can sell to anybody. Yeah, I said, well, that's good, but then nobody will buy. Because nowadays, the chance of any entrepreneur starting a whole new mass consumer company, like a whole new Heinz tomato sauce company, it's just not going to happen. Like niching down is the way to go at the moment in this overcrowded market. So you want to resonate, your message needs to resonate with a very specific type of person almost. So that's where we start, getting crystal clear on who it is you're serving, figuring out different, what they need, and then figuring out different way, okay, how can you make money? So I had one member who just joined, and he has a very successful podcast already in the environmental world. Very successful, but he had no clue how to make money. So I had him do an whole exercise. Okay, come up with all these different stakeholders that could be your potential customer, figure out all of what they need, what their pain points are, and then, okay, what solution could you offer for them? And then within one session, we already figured, okay, these are 3 avenues we can try. He went on a conference, he talked to them, and how he's pursuing one and having already like leads and offer split out. So it can get very fast, but I always start there. Start with who can you serve and what can you serve them with. So that is obviously also because that's my message, is obviously the people that I attract as well. But I think Kat usually is all about messaging and branding, what I can imagine. That's your forte.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And making sure that you're building in your, I see so many social entrepreneurs, they never actually focus on the impact that they're creating. They never communicate that. They only talk about the what or the how, and as Rianne said earlier, and Simon Sinek's thing around the why is so important. And people connect to that why. People want to be part of brands and support causes that they're passionate about, that they're committed to, that align with their values and their beliefs. And so the more you can talk about your why and the impact that you're actually creating, the more likely you are to build that community base and customer base.
True. Yeah.
Rianne, I just wanted to sort of end, as we're sort of talking about money and profit. I know for lots of people that I speak to in the sector, this idea of being for profit or focusing on how we build really profitable, successful businesses is really problematic. And I know you and me share a similar perspective on this, that it's essential that we are creating for-profit social enterprises, and you've already talked about this morning or the afternoon where you are. But can you kind of just reiterate the importance of why profit is important, but also maybe why you think it's important for people to be challenged on, them saying that they don't want to, they're not interested in it for money, they're just altruistic and they want to do what's right in the world, that they're not interested in kind of this big corporate model, I suppose, of creating wealth. Can you kind of answer some of those challenges that I know people will be thinking even if they don't ask it?
Yeah, you know, the literally what you just said, like, yeah, it's not about the money. I hear it a lot, obviously. And I always say, well, but if you want to build massive impact, right? You want to help a specific group of people. You probably need money to do that. Where's the money going to come from? You know, even if you don't want it for yourself, that's all fine and dandy, but probably your community of service will need it somehow to get support, to get funded. And what I see a lot of passionpreneurs, that's another name that Natalie, another social mentor, uses, passionpreneurs, like, or heart-centeredpreneurs. They come in and they have this big wholehearted and want to give them all, but over time, when they're not focused on making money, they basically just burn out. Because you can give, but eventually it's not a never-ending well, right? Your energy. You need to figure out how to sustainably create impact. It's not a one-off for most of these heart-driven entrepreneurs. They want to keep doing this, and for that to work, you have to find a way to sustainably make money. Now, obviously, in lots of countries there are grants and subsidies, and if that's your route, fine, you know, follow it. That's just not what Kat and I here are advocating, because it's an insecure route. If our economy collapses and our governments decide to turn off the tap, so to speak, you know, to cut it, then you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm here. I can have no grants anymore. I have no subsidies anymore, and all of a sudden your business comes to a halt. Whereas if you are able to create a revenue stream where you exchange value in exchange for money, so you give value in terms of a product or a solution, and you get money for it, and you do that really, really well, then that is your sustainable input model to create impact. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in general it's easier actually to build a company than to fill out all these grant forms, because I think it's like a hard job to do all the bureaucracy around grants. And starting a business, it's not that hard, because in essence, to start a business, I always say you need 3 things. And pause the social impact for a second. Start a business. You need a customer with a problem or a need for which you have a solution for which they are willing to pay. That's it. And yeah, and there's always a customer with a problem. It's just, you know, listening well to them and understanding them, and then solving their problems. But it's, you know, to me, that's the simple thing.
And I think that simplicity of that is really, really helpful, Rianne, because often people aren't creating social enterprises or impact businesses with that in mind. They're, you know, and it's not that it's wrong, but they're so focused on their own passion and what they think is important, they're not linking it back to the customer and like what they need and how, you know. And that's where I often come in with my customers, is helping them kind of think through, well, what is it that your customer needs and how do you communicate your solution to them, rather than, you know, yeah, you're super passionate about X, Y, and Z, and that's what your business is doing, but it's not necessarily how your customer is interpreting it or wants to see and engage with it.
No, Josh, my business partner, says, make your solution the star of the show and your cause the supporting actor. People don't buy because you create social impact. People buy because you provide value to them. People buy Tom's shoes because they love the shoes. And then it's an extra benefit. Oh my gosh, I'm also doing good with it. But if it was an ugly shoe or an uncomfortable shoe, they wouldn't have been so successful. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and that's also when startup social entrepreneurs come to me, I said, find a customer, an ideal customer you absolutely love to serve. Because in the beginning, those are the people you spend the most time with. So you better make sure that you enjoy doing it. Yeah. You know, if you only care deeply about your community of services and you hate your customers, it's not going to work. Yeah.
And I suppose with that as well, which comes up a lot, is the quality is key, because actually if you can't provide equal quality to what's already out there on the market, and in fact better quality or added value, then, you know, you're not competing and you're not going to survive or be sustainable, because people want that, you know. Often I think, certainly here and where I kind of operate, lots of people think, oh, they just want to go for lowest value, lowest common denominator, but actually it's missing the point, I think, about, you know, thinking through what the customer wants. And generally customers want the best quality, yes, for the best value, but that doesn't always mean cheap.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of communicating that value, isn't it, to your customer?
Yeah. I want to circle one last thing I want to say about the what you asked me about it's about the what I call the money mindset of social entrepreneurs. Because, and that's another thing that we both stumble across a lot, is that the meaning that some startup social entrepreneurs give to money. So the meaning that they put on money is that it's like it's this almost dirty, you know, like money is like a bad thing or the dirty thing or whatever. And I am working with people to sort of like shift that perspective and trying them to love money, because money to me is just a tool. You know, it's just an instrument, it's just paper. It's just a tool, and you can do really bad things with it, and you can do really, really good things with it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to do, right? So we better love money. We want to make tons of money so we can uplift our world, because our world, and especially our community of service, because most of the time those are people or animals or whatever who have less opportunity and less privileged than you and I are, and we need just money to help them. So yeah, shifting your mindset around money is just a tool, and it's a great tool, so I can help massive amounts of people or animals or the environment or whatever. That's also something. And in order to create massive amounts of money, it's just, you know, give tons of value to your customers. Yeah, that's simple again. It's not that hard.
And what I always say around that money mindset thing is people, because it's often just to do with the fact that we have lots of stories and influences that tell us that profit is bad. Like that's the general message that you have, or you've been told, or that you see. I just tell people, well, look out for the other story. Look out for the story that is happening all over the world, where people are using money for good, because it's not told enough for all sorts of reasons. That story is not shared enough, but it is happening and has happened throughout the last century, the last 2 centuries. So if you're not familiar with the stories of where profit creates good, go out and look for them, because they are out there. Yep. And hopefully this summit will, you know, introduce you to some of those stories in some small way. Rianne, we've got one question actually that's come through. Oh. There's actually a Q&A and a chat box, which I haven't appreciated. So I'll tell you what the question is. So it says, can you explain the selling aspect? I get why the other 3 fit, and I get the definition of selling, but I'm struggling with the choice of the word.
Can you explain the selling aspect? I get why the other 3 fit in the definition of selling. I get the definition, but I'm struggling with the choice of word. I don't. Okay. I don't know if I'm understanding the question right. So if I don't, please leave a chat and tell me if I'm getting this right or not. But what I say is, because I use that word selling. First of all, it has an S. Oh, that's kind of funny. But but because your community of customers and your community of services are the same, right? So you sell a product or a solution directly to your community of service, that is also your community of customers, that's also meant to help them out of whatever situation they're currently in. Mm-hmm. So the example I gave you, Grameen Bank, their community of service are women in Bangladesh. Their community of customers are other way around, I'm sorry. The community of customers are these women in Bangladesh, women entrepreneurs who need a microloan to get this business, to start their own business, basically funding for their business. And the community of service is the whole of Bangladesh, because he wants to uplift the whole. So he did, from the impact business owner point of view, he used the selling model to make massive impact. Mm-hmm. So it's the word, and I'm hoping I'm understanding your question right, but the word is from the perspective of the entrepreneur, the social impact entrepreneur. He either sells directly, he sources, he staffs, or he shares. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if...
hopefully that explains. And it may just be, you know, I know we've got an international audience. It may just be in terms of linguistics and translation and stuff, but if not, you can connect with Rianne after and continue that conversation. Nora's also asked about the business model canvas that you sort of revamped, so we'll definitely share that in the resource that we're going to kind of give.
Well, I have to be like the regular business model canvas. That's the one that is widely available. The revamped one, that's for our members.
Sure, yeah. So but I actually have come across a business model canvas for social entrepreneurs as well, so I will find that link and share that as well. Yeah. So, but yeah, if you want Rianne's special model, you need to be part of her community.
Yeah, come on forward.
Okay, fantastic. So, Rianne, I'm going to ask everybody who joins me on the summit this question just to end, and we will have talked about it today in the webinar, but I just really want you to, as succinctly as possible, kind of reflect and share on why you think social enterprise is so important in the world now, why would we need it, and why are you super passionate about it. So, you want to answer that? Sorry.
Oh, sorry,
I think about it.
Yeah, ask me again.
So, why is it for you that social entrepreneurship is so important right now, and why is it that you're so passionate about it?
I am so passionate about it because in general, I have seen businesses, like business before the social entrepreneurship, business in general has been a massive instrument to uplift all of our societies across the world. Capitalism, like the free market, in essence, there's nothing wrong with it. However, over the years, we've gone too far. We've taken it too far. And we're now in a world where only a few get a lot and a whole lot don't have enough. And I believe businesses have been a massive instrument for change, for uplifting our societies. And we have to do it again, but now to uplift everybody, not just those happy few. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why I'm so excited about it, because I love the concept of business, but now using it as a force for good. I truly believe we can change the world using businesses. So that's why I'm so passionate.
And that is such a wonderful segue into this afternoon's webinar with Erin Sahan, who's the CEO of the World Fair Trade Organization. So it'll be fantastic to hear his perspective on exactly that thing about why we need to have social entrepreneurship to create and spread wealth globally in a much more equal form. Yeah. So Erin, she'll be talking about that at 2 today. Rianne, it's been an absolute pleasure and absolute joy to have you on the summit and to kickstart this summit this morning. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, and all your wisdom on social entrepreneurship. It's been brilliant. Have you got any final words, or tell us where people can find you? And we'll obviously share this in the follow-up emails as well.
Yeah, if my name is Rianne Klein Geltink. It's a bit hard in English, but you can actually find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, or you can surf to our website, impactbusinessbase.com. You can sign up for a newsletter and you'll get free weekly videos and tons of other goodies. So yeah, or, just find me on social media.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rianne. And we'll definitely be following up soon because we have conversations regularly. It's been brilliant. And thank you so much to everybody who's joined today's webinar live, and if you're watching on the replay, thank you so much. If you have any questions and you're watching on the replay, then do please connect with either myself or Rianne on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. And we'll look forward to continuing the conversation over the next 2 weeks as we deep dive into all these webinars that we've got with some great speakers. So hopefully see you this afternoon. Or on another webinar very soon. And that's where I'll say goodbye. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye, Rianne.
Thank you so much, Kat. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Sophie. Thanks, Eddie.